What's up, guys? Today is Sunday, July 16, and I want to talk about a couple things. This video is just to go over how I make my watch list, and something we have to understand about making watch lists and trading overall is that everybody's different. Everybody has their own way and their own style, their own system of trading, and so there's people that make their watch list a certain way versus other folks. So I just want to go over the way that I make it. Maybe you guys can learn something that could fit into your trading system. But how I make my watch list is obviously anything that's been moving for the week or any news that came out are the ideal ones to trade. But I also, go back to any other tickers that I'm mostly familiar with, and one of them is actually ARY, and usually I have three windows open when I'm making my watch list. I have Trading View, which I use, which is very a simple tool to use for my support resistance. And this is my go-to for support resistance. And the other one I use is Finviz. Obviously, this one I use it for a couple of things. Is because it has all the news laid out at the bottom. Very easy just to for the eye to catch all the news. And also what I like is that it makes some trend lines for you. A lot of times, we misplace trend lines or we miss some trend lines. And as you can see for ARY is making this downtrend and along with some simple moving averages. But for my simple moving averages, what you notice here is that it's kind of hard to see where the actual numbers are at. So I go over to stockcharts.com and I have three of them, which is the 50, the 200, and the 20. And the only reason that I'm using these is because I know for a fact that this is what a lot of traders use. You still have the 8 moving average or exponential moving average, the 9 exponential moving average, but in the grand scheme of things, is that this is something that most institutions and a lot of traders use. And we have to keep in mind that it's important to know what other traders are thinking. It doesn't really matter what you do, what you care, and what direction the stock you want it to go. Is you have to take things into consideration. And something that I learned from that is this book called Trade the Trader, a very good book that I recommend. It talks about how you're competing against other traders. We call it the market, but honestly, we're just competing against other traders. Just like in poker, when you go to a poker table, you're competing against other poker players. The only difference here is that you cannot see your poker or your opponent. We just call it the market. But starting off with ARY, I do a couple things. Obviously, I have my trading view. I go over with some Fibonacci's. I usually like to do the 52-week high to the 52-week low. So at this point, I'm gonna get it right where the gapped up and down here. So this is my first point to this point. Um, and the first things I start to look is just to make sure that it's actually if it reacts to the Fibonacci. And as you can see, this one here does react very good. You got your golden ratio here, kind of crack through here and then bounce off the 50% retracement. Came back down to, I think this is, what is it, 23. So at least for this one reacts very good to this Fibonacci. Sometimes you need to play around with them until it actually fits. So that's the first thing I do, and then I start grabbing my support resistance for the stock. So for example, this one has a resistance at $9, and on my watch list I have a watch list form that I start putting all these things into there. And so there's a resistance there, $9, something to take into account, and then you also have the support here around $8. So I'll write these things down. Obviously, if it comes down to over to $9, that's a strong resistance. And then I take into account any trend lines. Now, the thing about this one here is that it's making this downtrend. So a lot of traders are actually looking for the break of that downtrend, and they'll go long. So if we were to draw it here, there's a lot of people who will take this over, let's say 887 to $9, and will make a big push up, and then you have your $10 magnet as well. The other key thing that I noticed about this one, it has a 200 moving average. So 867 is the 200 moving average at this point. So There's a lot of key things. It depending what the stock does, at 877, 870, 880 area. If it gets rejected, then, be a good short. It gets above that, then it has a really good chance of running all the way to $10. Like I mentioned again, because it's your golden ratio, it's also your 50, I mean, sorry, the $10 magnet. And then we move to for the intraday, I like to move to the 30-minute for other support resistance area. We already mentioned the $9 area, and the thing about trading, the problem is that when I was when I first started, and I mean I still run into this issue, is that I'm looking for a specific number like 904. That's my resistance area, and it's not. A lot of times it peaks over, picked over to 920. So when you're talking about resistance support, it's like you have to give it a range. Like for example, here you could say $8 is a support, but you have to give a couple more cents of breathing room, so about another 10, 20 cents. Um, because the thing a lot about trading, and I notice a lot of traders, and again, I fall in this category too a lot of times, is that the emotions get involved because you say, okay, this is my $8 support, so it should bounce off the exact support, and then let's say for example you take a position for a long at 8, then it starts dipping to 794, 795, 796, and then you start panicking, you get out because you think it's gonna continue lower, but in the bigger picture, it's just a small wick. So you always have to give it a range. So so I come to my 30-minute and I look for stronger support resistance. So I write all these things down on my form that I have. The other thing that I like to do is, obviously check the news just to make sure that they're not reporting any numbers. For example, let's say, if there's any earnings or if there's any news coming out. So that's the other thing I look into, and Finviz is really good with that. And then I was talking about my moving averages here. So, I mean, just by quickly going over this one here is, I guess I already mentioned this. If it breaks over this trend and it breaks over the 200 moving average, you can have a lot of traders who, they have scanners just to indicate that when the stock moves over 200 moving average, to go long. So those are things to be careful, especially if you want to go in with a bias. My bias here is, I guess, I suppose, long bias because it's already been testing this trend a couple times. So, I mean, but at the same time, if it gets rejected on Monday, maybe Tuesday we'll play it again for a short. If it gets rejected and maybe retest this $8 mark again, and then maybe for a bounce play. So those are the things I look for, and a lot of times I go onto Twitter just to check the news, but I've discovered a lot of times that it kind of influences me in which direction to go, and I don't think it's a good idea because people start pumping it, and then you start doubting yourself about a couple things, and should I take a short or should I take a long, and especially in the action when you're about to take the trade. So I mean that's the way I do my watch list. My three like I said, my three websites that I use, and then I also obviously I go to Thinkorswim, and then I look at indicators. I look at the RSI. Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. AR1, and let's see. This one I have a lot of indicators on this one here, but I go to the daily chart and look at the RSI. I also go to the 4 hour RSI, 2 hour, and just to make sure, just to see how it reacts at a certain RSI. So I take a lot of things into consideration. So I mean, this one here is already full of indicators at this time. During trading, I actually use the flex grid, and just it's easier for my eyes to see. But anyways, that's the way I make my watch list, and hopefully it helps you guys, and maybe you guys pick up a couple things. And best of luck.